Today in this 2013 Ford Fiesta, we'll be having a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster EZ2 base plate kit with removable arms, part number 524425-1. Here's what our base plate looks like installed. What's great about this base plate is that we have removable arms, so we'll have a nice clean look on the front of our vehicle when we're not flat towing it. Doesn't add any extra length to the vehicle, so it's not something we have to worry about walking into as we walk around the front of the car either. Our removable arm serves as our attachment point for our tow bar. The way this works is that you insert it with the tab horizontal, rotate it. This is for our safety cable attachment point. That'll go around the larger diameter hole on our arm. Then we'll take our short safety cable extension, place it on, and then tighten the nut down. This gives us the attachment for our safety cable from our tow bar. Now, one thing that's great about this base plate is that it's compatible with most Roadmaster tow bars. Many of our customers really like the fact that it does look very nice on the front of their Fiesta. They don't feel like it compromises the looks of it too much, and it still looks like the vehicle's very stock. Now, the reason you're going to want a base plate like this one is that this gives you the ability to safely flat tow your Fiesta behind your motorhome without having to worry about having to get a tow dolly and having a place to store the dolly when you're not using it, or having it clutter up the campground when you arrive at your destination. Now, for this particular flat tow setup, we used a Roadmaster EZ2 base plate kit with removable arms, the Roadmaster 4 diode universal wiring kit for towed vehicles with a 7-wire to 6-wire straight cord, the SMI Stay and Play Duo supplemental braking system, the Roadmaster automatic battery disconnect with switch for towed vehicles. We also used the Roadmaster straight safety cables, and for our tow bar we used a Roadmaster Falcon all-terrain. Now, depending upon your motorhome, you may or may not need a high-low adapter to ensure that the tow bar is at level height. We have many different options available for you on our website. Now that we've gone over some features, we'll show you how to get it installed. To begin our install, we'll have our hood open so we can gain access to our fascia fasteners here at the top. On the back side of our fascia, we'll have 4 plastic fasteners just like this one that run across the back that we need to remove. The way these work, you use a flathead screwdriver or a trim panel tool. You'll pop up the center section. The center section will pop out, and then the section underneath will come out as well. Let me just put this back in there for now. Just leave it out a little bit, just like that. So we'll just do the same thing to get all 4 of these out. Now we need to remove our headlights. In order to do that, we'll have 3 T30 Torx screws. We'll have 2 at the front, and then 1 at the back. Now we'll lift up on our headlight assembly. Now, with our headlight loose, we have access to all of our connectors. We'll have a couple like this, or there's a black plastic tab on, you can press and pull to separate. We'll unclip the wiring harness as well. It's by pulling it away. We have a gray one towards the back, pressing on the tab, pull to separate. Then we have the one here at the front. It's kind of orangish brown. Press on the tab at the top, pull to separate. Now we can take our headlight assembly, set it aside where it won't get damaged, and repeat the same process on the other side. Okay, and our wheel wells, where our fender liner attaches to our fascia, we'll have 2 T25 Torx screws that we need to remove. Now, underneath where our fascia attaches to the vehicle, we'll have 3 5.5mm fasteners. 1 on each side in the corner, one directly in the middle, and this is the one on our other side. Now where our fascia meets our fender on each side, we'll have 3 8mm fasteners just like this one in order to remove. Okay, now with an extra set of hands we can remove our fascia. We'll lift up on it and pull it forward. If your vehicle is so equipped, you'll need to disconnect your marker lights here. Just press in on the tab and pull back. Now we'll set our fascia aside where it won't get damaged. Now we need to remove our lower air deflector on each side. In order to do that, we'll have 2 plastic fasteners. These plastic fasteners are a little bit different. Use a screwdriver to drive out the center section. This is our ambient air temperature sensor. It's clipped to our bumper beam. We need to unclip it. Now we need to unplug our horn. There's a black tab on the back side that you press down on and you can pull to separate. On our core support on each side, we have our airbag sensors. We need to unbolt these. Let's do that by removing the 10mm nut. Now we need to remove our upper air deflectors. There's 2 plastic fasteners, one here and one here on the top edge. Okay. Now we need to unclip our wiring harnesses from the bumper core. We'll be looking at our driver's side one first. There's 5 in total on the driver's side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. On our passenger side, we have 4 locations. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we need to remove the bolts where our core support attaches to our bumper core. In order to do that, we'll have 2 8mm bolt heads on each side. Okay, we've gone ahead and placed a support underneath our radiator and our core support. We're using a block of wood in order to do this. You can use a floor jack, a jack stand, anything that you have that can get it at the right height in order to help support the weight so it doesn't get damaged. Now we're going to remove the remaining bolts for our core support. We'll have a 10mm bolt on each side like this one, and then a 10mm bolt on this brace that goes to our bumper beam. Now we need to remove the 4 13mm bolts that hold our bumper beam in place on each side. We'll have 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom as well. With the bolts removed, we can now pull the bumper beam away from the vehicle. Okay, we have our bumper beam upside down on a workbench now. I've already went ahead and placed our base plate on top of it and then used a paint marker to line out areas we're going to have to trim out in order for our hardware to go through. And I did this through all of our mounting locations that go over existing holes. So with those marked, we can remove the base plate and trim out that area using a die grinder. Okay, with our holes enlarged, we'll now set our base plate back over the bumper beam, and you can see how our hardware will now easily go through the holes. Okay, now we'll take one of our bolts, one of our lock washers, and from every bolt that we use from this point forward, we'll be sure to put red Loctite on it as indicated in the instructions. We'll also take one of our threaded nut plates here. We'll go through the inner hole, not the outer hole, on our base plate, and we'll thread it into our nut. So we'll stick our hand inside, line the nut plate up with the hole, and thread the bolt into the nut plate. Okay, now for our hole here in the back side of our brace, we're going to use a pull wire, which you can pick up on our website. It's a 1/2 inch diameter pull wire for 1/2 inch by 13 thread bolts. We'll go through the hole and route it out of our bumper beam right there. Okay, now we'll place on our square hole spacer on the pull wire, and we'll thread our carriage bolt onto the pull wire and place those inside the bumper beam, and we'll pull them out the hole. We can remove our pull wire. Place on our lock washer. Be careful not to push the bolt back inside, and we'll thread on our nut. We'll repeat this on the other side. Okay, now we can go ahead and tighten down our hardware. On our nut plates, you can put a wrench over the nut to keep it from spinning as you tighten it. Now we'll go ahead and torque our hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. Now on the outer edge of our bumper beam, we'll use this hole in our base plate as a guide to drill a pilot hole right in the center. Now we'll enlarge that hole to a 1/2 inch in diameter. This is our bumper support brace. This section here that's smaller goes inside our bumper beam. This section here, which is larger, goes inside the frame rail of our vehicle. So we'll line it up, insert it inside of our bumper beam. Take our hardware, bolt and a lock washer. We'll get one bolt started at the top, and we'll do the one on the side. Okay, with those bolts started, we'll tighten them down. Now we'll torque our hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. Now with the next set of hands, we'll take our bumper beam and reinstall it on the vehicle with the base plate. With our bumper beam and base plate in position, you can see where the factory holes in our frame don't exactly line up with the hole for our base plate support arm. So we're going to use our die grinder and trim this out here on the side, and again the same way on the bottom. We'll do this on both sides. But before we do that, we'll make sure we remove our bumper beam and base plate so it's not in the way and we won't damage the threads of the support arm. We'll do the same on the other side. Okay, with all of our holes properly enlarged now and everything lining up properly, we'll now put some Loctite on our existing bolts that we removed that hold the bumper beam in place and loosely reinstall them. Now the areas that we enlarged, we're going to take some spray paint and go over the outside edges just so we don't have to worry about any rust. Okay, now we'll take one of our bolts, a lock washer, and one of our large support plates here, and we'll go into the hole on the side of our frame. Okay, for the location underneath, We'll have a bolt with a lock washer and our small block. Okay, now we'll try to line up our bumper beam as close as possible to the outline where the bolts were originally, and we'll start by tightening those bolts down. Now we'll do the ones on the side and the one on the bottom. All right, now we'll torque our other hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. Now we'll reinstall our hardware that attaches our core support. Okay, we've gone ahead and reinstalled our airbag sensors and clipped all of our wiring harnesses back into place. We've also secured our ambient air temperature sensor to our base plate using a couple of zip ties. Now on our upper air deflector, I marked off a section that we're going to have to trim in order to fit around our base plate so we can reinstall it. With it trimmed, we can now reinstall it. Now while we have our fascia off, this is a good time to mount any wiring accessories we may have. If we're using a supplemental braking system, which is highly recommended, we'll need to mount our breakaway switch. We secured ours to the lower side of the bumper beam using a self-tapping screw. We went ahead and marked out a couple areas on our fascia where we're going to need to trim in order to have clearance around our base plate and everything else. So we'll just take a pair of side cutters and cut off the area that's in the way. Now with an extra set of hands, we'll reinstall our fascia, making sure we plug back in our daytime running lights. Okay, our headlights can go back in now. And that completes our look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster EZ2 base plate kit with removable arms, part number 524425-1 on this 2013 Ford Fiesta.